Manager here, responsible for overseeing the language access project. I would ask all of you who joined us today to please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box if you wish to do so, just your name and the organization you work for, and whatever information you would like to share. I would like to mention that this workshop was brought to you by United Way of Southern Nevada Language Access Project, and it was made possible by the federal grant we received to be able to start this project. I would like to welcome you all to this workshop. As all of you know, we have a workshop each month in which we cover different topics to help advance the language access initiative in our community. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to David. Let him introduce himself and start with his presentation. Thank you, David. Go ahead.
Thank you, Abel. Well, good morning, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce myself. My name is David Loaiza, and I am the founder and CEO of Diversidad LLC, which is a consulting firm dedicated to eliminating language barriers and support the community, especially here in Southern Nevada, trying to expand to the northern areas. And a little bit of my background, I have a master's degree in healthcare administration, dual certifications in interpreting and translation, and a black belt in Six Sigma, which is quality improvement processes. I try to bring a unique expertise to the table. My commitment to diversity and inclusion extends beyond my professional work. I have served as a faculty member at UNLV with teaching Spanish, medical interpreting, and also some leadership positions in several organizations dedicated to healthcare equity. My passion for creating a more inclusive world has led me to create numerous diversity and inclusion summits, and I'm honored to be here today to bring you this presentation on empowering our staff and so we can enhance our clients' satisfaction. And we're gonna leave at the end a Q&A session, but if as I'm talking to you guys, any questions come up or any comments, feel free to put them in the chat box. I will do my best to try to address those along the way. Otherwise, I'll make sure to cover them right at the end. So language access, as you guys know, here in Southern Nevada or in Nevada has been increasing because of our community, our visitors, and it is very important for us to provide the access, avoiding any type of barriers to the communication, since we want to make sure that everybody's felt understood and we can understand them as well. So in today's presentation, I want to explore two essential areas that is going to help your staff with the skills that they need to connect with clients from diverse backgrounds, and how we can create meaningful experience. This slide was still investigation by the manager of this property itself. And then we are using these speakers and compounds like this.
David, excuse me, I think your mic went muted. If you can please unmute.
Oh, okay. So I don't know whether you guys lost me, but so the idea to bring you this presentation is to create to empower our staff in on communication skills. So let's talk about something on cross-cultural communication. Culture, as we know, is a tapestry made up of shared values, beliefs, and traditions and customs. It's a big part of what makes us who we are and also how we see the world. Culture shapes our identities and behaviors and how we interact with others. And at its core, culture is a way of making sense of our world. It includes everything from language, art, music, social norms, political systems, religious beliefs, and culture is always changing and adapting, influenced by media, globalization, immigration, technology. It is important to recognize and respect cultural diversity when we interact with people from different cultural backgrounds. And it is essential to be respectful, curious, and open-minded. So we should embrace other culture or cultural differences rather than just seeing them as barriers. One way to bridge a cultural gap is through education by including different cultural perspectives in the school system, the school curricula. We can equip young people with skills, the knowledge that they need to navigate diverse and interconnect the world. Usually, for those that have traveled abroad, you have had that experience of getting to see other cultures. Right now, we have the Copa America going on here in the United States, so we have all these countries traveling and well, having all these games, and so there is a lot of culture that is being seen. And unfortunately, US didn't make it to the last finals or the semifinals, so I don't think it's being as televised as to expose people to other cultures, but this opportunity of the bringing people to see the games is also an opportunity for us to engage multiculturally. The media, of course, is one of the places that plays an important role on shaping cultural perceptions and attitudes by portraying diverse cultures accurately and positively. As you guys have noticed, a lot of the movies, a lot of the shows, they're trying to portray bilingual or bilingual, bicultural, multicultural, make sure that everybody fits in everybody's profile so we can all feel inclusive. And that's something that we also recommend when you are creating some sort of marketing brochure or even your website, to make sure that the people that are portraying in is not just one specific race, but also is inclusive to other colors. And common misunderstandings may come up too when it becomes to either culture or language. And just imagine a refugee from Syria, for example, seeking services that we may provide. And some of their cultural norms might differ significantly from our own, leading to misunderstandings about time, personal space, or even what constitutes appropriate behavior. So let's picture a family from Syria seeking services. They have fled from war or from a country that has been torn down from war, and in search of a safety place, better life. They have come from a culture of very different from our own, and some of the things that they have used to, that they think that are norms, the way that you should behave, may create some misunderstandings, some miscommunication. So just to give you an example, the concept of personal space. So in some cultures, and in this example of the Syrian family, it is common for people to stand very close to each other when they are talking. And this can make people feel a little uncomfortable and even be perceived as aggressive, especially when you're like that close to somebody. So also there are different ideas about time, and it's not to pick on any specific culture, but some cultures are very laid back. So if you give them a time, it's like, okay, let's meet at 5 o'clock. So it's like 5 o'clock, people are going to start getting there. I'll just get there at 6 o'clock. And by the time they get there at 6 o'clock, everything is over. It's like, oh my God, I just missed everything that was going on. Other cultures, they have, for example, as I mentioned, I have a healthcare background, and I've seen this in healthcare where a patient shows up to the clinic and it's an hour or 2 hours earlier, right before their time, and they're deemed as here comes the difficult patient, just because they showed up really early. So when the doctor sat down with this specific patient and started asking questions like, why do you come so early? Like, this is the fourth appointment or fifth appointment that you get here, like way before the clinic opens. And and they this lady showed them a picture of what a clinic looks like from her hometown. And there is a long line that goes like 2 blocks and around the corner. So when you seek healthcare services in some of these other small towns or areas that are kind of secluded from the services, you have to get there 2 hours ahead of time to receive the service. And that mentality just comes along to culture that is totally different of like respecting the appointment and 30-minute cancellation fee, appointment fees, type of thing. So once the doctor realized that it was just a cultural thing about like getting there 2 hours earlier before the appointment time, not demanding that they had to be seen 2 hours earlier, but just to make sure that they were being seen at their time, then the provider was able to communicate that to the staff, and the staff had a different mentality. The patient wasn't the difficult patient. Oh my God, the lady that always wants the appointment to be early, but the more understanding view of what the patient has come through. And it's like, okay, well, we'll make sure that you don't have to get there early, but just make sure that there is you get here at this time and this is how it works. So there is a better explanation of our culture. So be respectful with other customs, traditions. Take time to learn about the customs and traditions of the people you are interacting with. This will help avoid mistakes, misunderstandings, being disrespectful. And in some cultures, it might be seen rude to.
Okay, well,
In some cultures, might be seen rude to make eye contact with somebody who is older than you, while in others, it is a sign of respect. So there is the space, there is the eye contact. Also, gender-wise, some cultures might have like a female-female interaction, but when there's female-male interaction, it's better to leave it to their spouse, the male-male. So it's kind of like an interesting situation. And a lot of the times it might be seen like, oh, is there like some sort of abuse in the household? Like, why isn't she responding? And so there is like some of the things that we have to like dig in a little bit in the culture to see if it's what we think it is or something unrelated and it's just something like a norm that they grew up with. So try to learn a little bit about the culture, avoiding making assumptions. It is the best way it is to avoid making assumptions about people from different cultures. The best way to make assumptions is by learning more about the culture. If you're using an interpreter, or you have somebody that is bicultural in your staff that has come from that town, they might be able to break that barrier of the cultural barrier and be more of a cultural broker where they can say, so this is actually, a norm. This is what's going on. In the case of the lady that gets there early, it's like, this is what happens, or the opposite. If the person is used to being more relaxed, oh, the reason they're late is because of this, or let's make sure that we educate them more. So interpreters or bilingual, bicultural staff that have been exposed to that culture are great ways to start learning more about the culture. When we talk about learning about the culture, it's very difficult because sometimes we have multiple cultures within our own country. So it is all about getting acquainted and improving the communication. So remember that everyone is an individual, and we should not make generalizations about people based on their culture. It is important to remember that everyone is an individual and that we should not make generalizations just because someone is from a particular culture doesn't mean that they have all the characteristics of that culture. There is a great deal of diversity within every culture. So learning about a culture is a good thing, but not generalizing, because we're all individuals and we're gonna break apart from one person. And if we have been exposed to other cultures, we kind of, depending on where we grow up, that kind of gets more information. So maybe asking the person, for example, in like the Spanish speakers, that multiple countries that speak Spanish. So what's the country of origin? And if there is like a specific place of growing up, if it's somebody that might speak Spanish, doesn't mean that we cannot generalize them as everybody else. But if they, for example, grew up in a secluded area or very rural area where they don't have technology, something like a fridge might be something new to them and they might not understand the concept. So just understanding those details by communicating and learning more about them. So pay attention to non-verbal cues. When you're interacting with someone from a different culture, it is important to pay attention to gestures, facial expressions, body language, tone of voice. Those nonverbal cues can often reveal more about the person, what they're thinking or feeling, than their words itself. Active communication, active listening, especially, goes beyond hearing words. It's about understanding the emotions and needs behind them. When we truly listen, we build rapport and show our clients that their voice matter. And there are some techniques. Apologize, I realized that my slide didn't pass before. So there are some techniques that I want to bring to your attention, which are paraphrasing, reflecting feelings, and asking open-ended questions. So paraphrasing, if I understand correctly, you're saying, blah, 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 blah. So by paraphrasing what somebody is saying, you can demonstrate that you have been listening and that you are trying to understand their perspective. It also gives them an opportunity to clarify or correct any misunderstanding if there is some sort of misunderstanding. So a lot of providers have been taught the talk back method, or after they give something that is important, some sort of follow-up instruction or some specific instruction that really matters, you kind of want to say, could you tell me back what I just said? And make sure that there is clarity in the communication and they actually understood what it was expressed. And reflect feelings. It sounds like this situation is very stressful for you. So reflecting someone's feelings shows that you are empathetic and that you understand what they are going through. It can help them feel heard and validated. And asking open-ended questions, of course, like what would be the most helpful thing for you right now? These type of questions that are open-ended allows people to explore their thoughts and feelings more deeply. It also encourages them to come up with their own solution rather than relying on you to provide them. Now, overcoming language barriers. as I mentioned before, if you have somebody in your staff that is bicultural, bilingual, if you're working with interpreters, whether it's in person, video, over the phone, they're going to be your cultural broker, cultural bridge to learn more about the client, or if there's some sort of clarification that needs to be done. Usually the interpreter would say, this is the interpreter speaking. In going back to my experiences in healthcare, for example, I have, through the years, I've noticed that a lot of the times there is a whole culture besides our own American culture, which is the culture of healthcare. And navigating the healthcare system is a culture itself. A lot of us that have grown up in the country still struggling sometimes if we haven't learned about PPOs and the going to a healthcare provider, if you have an HMO, to get a referral. So this type of systems become a culture itself. And if you've been a healthcare provider or have worked in a hospital, clinic, facility, you understand that culture completely. But if you haven't been there and you haven't been a patient, you haven't gotten sick, trying to navigate that, even if you speak the language, is still complicated. So imagine if you don't speak the language, that creates an additional barrier. So a lot of the times I've heard the hospitals that are the main hospitals, they're acute, and they're trying to discharge the patient if there is no threatening, their life is not, they receive treatment to the point that they are not going to die, they're going to be okay, and they get discharged, follow-up appointments come up. A lot of the times it's like a bit of miscommunication in the discharge portion, where the patient feels like they're being kicked out of the hospital. And it's just a way that it just comes out with translation, that it just is a little bit of a barrier. And part of it is not understanding the healthcare culture. So that's another thing to keep in mind, because if you're trying to communicate to one of your clients something, and then you realize that there is some holdback, some resistance, and they're trying to get a little upset by the things that you're saying, then it's better to explore, ask open-ended questions and explore the why, like what's going on, like, this, and try to explain the inside culture too. Like if that's the process, then just make sure that you tell them, well, this is the process, how it works, and have some more clarification in the communication so you can avoid conflicts later on. Simplifying language, it's an essential. So using clear, simple language, avoiding jargons, acronyms, complex sentences, idiomatic expressions. So many times I've gotten, as in the interpreting world, on both sides, we have the clients that speak another language that they grow up with idiomatic expressions. They don't really translate. There are some equivalences, like if you say, oh, it's raining really hard, raining cats and dogs outside. That doesn't translate, but there are some other equivalents of that exact expression. So try not to use any complicated jargon. If in the interpreting world, we talk about low register and high register. So low register is somebody that come from the ranch. They're gonna be talking with very not simplified language, but also some sort of language that has to do with animals. For example, if something happened to my foot, the word foot or leg might be one, just foot, or it's gonna sound like paw, like my paw, because they are used to working with animals. There are some body parts that are referred to, like the neck, the back, that may be referred to as animal parts because that's what they're used to naming, and they don't know the anatomy and physiology. So simplified language is the best. Usually with the use of interpreters, if they have been trained, or the bilingual staff, if they have been trained enough, they will say, oh, could you please rephrase? Could you please, what do you mean by this? Just because there are some idiomatic expressions that might have double meaning, or in the expression itself, it might mean something else, but in the translation, it might create a different meaning. So make sure that you simplify it as possible. Visual aids, of course, is something important to use. Pictures, diagrams, demonstrations can be incredibly helpful in conveying information, especially when language barrier exists. And I've seen in the past some sort of what I call Pictionaries, which is creating some sort of glossary that based on pictures and diagrams on what you need to communicate in case you don't know what the language is at the moment. They can like point what they actually need, creating signs that are picture-based instead of, I know with the whole LGBT inclusion to, like, for example, the bathrooms, creating male, female, and then gender-neutral bathrooms. Those signs have modified over the years. Maybe something as simple as just a picture of a toilet. It just creates a message of like, this is where the bathrooms are, and just simplify things. So moving on to our section number 2, which is how do we increase client satisfaction. And our goal here is to ensure that limited English proficient clients feel empowered, supported, and valued through their journey with your organization. So understanding the client experience, challenges faced by limited English proficient clients. Think about a recent moment that you've had, and if you have some sort of experience that comes to mind, please make a note, type it in the chat box so we can discuss more in depth. But when you have challenges with somebody that is limited English proficient, deaf, hard of hearing, speak a different language, these challenges can cause frustration, can cause that they miss the appointment, and sometimes, well, ultimately it causes some sort of sense of discouragement. Like, I'm not gonna go back there because I don't really understand them, or they don't understand me. So the person is discouraged to go back. So working with empathy and empowerment, it's crucial to remember that our clients are the experts on their own lives. So listen to their stories, validating their feelings, and offering support is a good way to empower them to take ownership on this journey. So several studies have shown a correlation between staff satisfaction and client satisfaction. And just to name a few, here are some notable examples: Harvard Business Review, Journal Occupational Organizational Psychology, CTI Research, Keeper Studies, ResearchGate. They all say that if you make sure that your staff is happy, they're gonna project the same thing towards their customers, and that's how you get a good reaction from your clients. And overall, these studies demonstrate a clear link between staff satisfaction, client satisfaction, prioritizing employees' well-being, engagement, and development tend to see higher levels of customer satisfaction and loyalty. So make sure that you invest in your employees, on education, and listen to your employees on to cover their needs. A good way to find out how we're doing on satisfaction, or what we need to improve when it comes to improvement processes, It's creating some sort of survey, and it could be in different type of formats, which you can do an online survey, or perhaps a focus group, interviews, community engagement. And the idea is to you can develop surveys in the languages most commonly spoken by your clientele, ask specific questions about their interactions with the staff, their understanding of information provided, and their overall satisfaction with your services. Then once you get the surveys, a good pool of people responding to the surveys, then analyze the data, look if there are any patterns and areas where you can make any improvements. And there's certain language groups who consistently report dissatisfaction, then you can try to create an action plan. With the action plan, the idea is to improve the satisfaction, the clientele experience. And this could involve providing more translating materials, offering cultural competency training for staff, or streamlining processes that makes it more user-friendly. So in this table that you see in front of you, we have client satisfaction. And to improve client satisfaction, maybe intake processes, flexible schedule, that could be the action plan depending on the type of complaints or comments that you receive through a survey or interview process. The volunteers and employees, I put those together. Same thing, if there is some sort of recognition that can be given or training that can bump up their satisfaction. And obviously, all these type of surveys can be done quantitative or qualitative. Quantitative, you have some numbers to go by when you analyze it and compare it to something, create a benchmark, and then after you implement, a few months later, do it again and see if there is some sort of improvement. Otherwise, qualitative, you get good information, opinions, and ideas on how to create additional action plans. My building a welcoming environment. Here, let's go back to this. So building a welcoming environment. We talked about some signs that might be visual, materials, clear, multilingual signage, and materials help clients navigate your organization with ease. Staff diversity. If you have multiple diverse employees, just bring some sort of event, or make sure that they are encouraged to bring their understanding of culture and language skills to the table, making clients more comfortable and understood. And the cultural sensitivity training is important for the staff. Creating some sort of ongoing training ensures that your staff is equipped to meet the diverse needs of your clientele with respect and empathy. For effective communication, just to give you some key takeaways.
Oh, excuse me, David.
Yes.
Hi, can you just go back to that last slide as I was about to snap a photo of it?
Oh, yeah.
Just really quick. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You have the full screen in front of you, right?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so some key takeaways is that effective communication is the cornerstone of building trust, fostering inclusivity, and creating a positive experience for everyone we serve. By empowering our staff and prioritizing the needs of our LEP clients, we strengthen our ability to make a real difference in our community. There are some conflict methods, reducing conflict methods that have been used, like the TKI, which stands for Thomas Kilmann Conflict Model. It's a model that uses 5 conflict handling styles. There is also, which are competing, collaborating, compromising, avoiding, and accommodating. IBR is the interest-based rational approach. It's a model that highlights how to identify and underline interest for each party rather than just take a position. It emphasizes building positive relationships and open communication to reach mutual satisfactory resolution. There is the Harvard Negotiation Project, which is a model that emphasizes separating the people from the problem, making sure that you only focus on the interest and generate options for mutual gain using objective criteria and evaluating the solutions. And the other one listed is the conflict resolution model, which involves identifying the source of the conflict, exploring possible solutions, choosing the best option, and implementing and evaluating solution. On the right side, you see the PEARLS model. This is the model that I've gotten more acquainted over the years in healthcare administration. That's what they're trying to teach. A lot of hospitals have used this to teach nurses and physicians to approach their clients. And I've used it quite a few times where it's been very effective. So the PEARLS, P stands for partnership. And when we talk about partnership, it's about asking questions about, for example, let's create a scenario. So you get somebody that is really upset about something. And then they're complaining, I want to talk to the manager, I want to talk to your boss or something. Some phrases that you can use for partnership could be, I want to understand your perspective on this. And so let's blah, blah, blah. Or let's work together to find a solution that works for both of us. I'm here to listen and help in any way I can. How can we best address this together? What are your thoughts on how we can move forward? So these are some good starting phrases to create a partnership. Then the E stands for empathy. In empathy phrases, we have, I can see that this is really important for you. Or you can say, I understand this must be frustrating or difficult, stressful for you. I can sense your disappointment. Thank you for sharing your feelings with me. Just provide some empathy. Then it becomes the apology. I apologize for my part in this situation. A lot of the times when we have a conflict, the person that is complaining or fighting, the main thing that they want to hear is, I'm sorry. And a lot of the times it doesn't come out from us to say, I'm sorry. So, saying, I'm sorry for any misunderstanding, or I want to make things right. I acknowledge that I could have handled this differently. There are some other ways to apologize. Respect comes next. Phrases like, I hear what you're saying, I value your opinion, even if we disagree. Let's try to focus on finding common ground. I appreciate your willingness to discuss this with me, or you have a right to your feelings. And then legitimize what they're saying. So it's understandable that you feel that way. Your concerns are valid. I can see why you're upset, frustrated, disappointed, or it's okay to feel the way you do, or I want to work with you to address your concerns. And last but not least, support. How can I help you with this? Is there anything I can do to make this easier for you? I'm here to offer my support in any way I can. Let's explore some resources that might be helpful. We'll get through this together. Those are some good phrases to provide support. And by using all these phrases, these examples, you can demonstrate empathy, respect, willingness to collaborate, which are essential for successful conflict resolution. Remember that it is important to control your tone of voice and non-verbal cues. So always a smile, and that also brings it, because if you have a face that is like trying to fight back, that's not going to help. Even they're not going to hear what you're going to say. So non-verbal cues are as important as the words, or more important. Be genuine, be open-minded. And these example questions, make sure that you can click on it and just download the some sort of sample PDF format on these questions. We talked about surveys on satisfaction, want to know how our clients are doing. So feel free to, I don't think you guys can click. If you can click and it goes, the survey, that's perfect. Otherwise, you can also use your phone and scan the QR code to fill out the satisfaction of what, or a survey on your thoughts about this presentation.